Hi, Joni. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. Thank you for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. I'm excited for our conversation today. I think we're going to talk about a topic that I actually don't know a whole lot about, so I'm excited to learn, but I think it will be extremely informative and valuable for our listeners too. So what I would love to do to start is if you would share with us kind of what you're currently doing. So I know you're an IHP, but you have lots of other backgrounds and certifications. So if you want to share with us a little bit about what you're currently doing, and then we'll talk about kind of how you got into this space.
Sure. So I work one-on-one with clients, and I also have a group coaching program. And I started out as a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. And actually, at the end of that certification schooling, I started IHP because it was calling to me. And I did both levels. So I'm an IHP 2, level 2. And then I discovered that my clients were sort of getting hung up on not being able to completely reach their goals through the nutrition and the labs and that type of coaching, the protocols, all of that. It was like there was this one piece that I felt they could utilize, and that was brain rewiring. So then I became a brain rewiring certified coach. And with that tool, I love that tool. I really help my clients heal old patterns in their brains. And also, I think the beautiful thing about that is that there's usually some trauma wrapped up in there that's keeping them stuck. And when we can go in there and in a safe container, in a safe way, kind of unlock what's keeping them stuck, we can look at that pattern, and then we can begin to work on that and rewire it. And through that process, it's a beautiful process of building healthy new brain patterns for them so that they have that to run on so they can easily achieve their goals. And it just makes the journey, I think, a lot smoother for them.
Yes. Yeah. So they don't feel like they're kind of bumping up against all of this kind of stuck energy, right?
Yes.
And they're, kind of only getting so far, because I've experienced that with, so many clients where there's like something that's stuck, right? And it's not that they're not eating enough kale or that eating too much bread, like there's something else that kind of has to give. Great. I can't wait to dive. We're going to dive into that topic in just a few seconds. What I would love to know is this always something that you were doing? Have you always been health-minded? Have you always been in the health and wellness field? Were you doing something else before the functional nutrition certification and IHP?
So I've always been very conscious of eating healthy, living healthy. My mother, back in the day in the 70s when I was born, her and my father, they started selling health supplements and protein shakes and powders. And really she turned her life around. She was pretty much a sugar junkie and loved her cake and her soda and all of that. And she realized just how bad she felt in her body. So she totally transformed her life, her body when she was pregnant with me. And I grew up in an environment of healthy eating off the land, real natural whole foods. My dad had an acre, maybe a half an acre, I would say, of just where he gardened. He grew fruit trees, all of that. So I feel like I grew up eating the way I still eat today. And so I didn't have a lot of those barriers to break through mentally, as far as, well, I, in order to achieve this, I need to do this. I didn't have a lot of sicknesses, or illnesses growing up. I barely ever remember getting sick as a child, which was, I think, wonderful. I had lots of energy. Sugar was very limited in our house. So I had that foundation. And then met my husband, who's a chiropractor and acupuncturist, and just kept going on that plane of, yes, this is a great way to live where you feel that you have your optimal energy, and just sitting and managing his office for him, running the front desk, billing, all of that, and getting to hear him talk to his patients and really just absorbing all of that. So I grew even more health-wise. And then at that time, I was singing pretty much full time, and I grew up singing. So that was second nature to me. And I thought, well, I'll just be doing this for the rest of my life. And then what happened, my mother passed away pretty suddenly, and that was 5 years ago. And it was almost like, how do I explain it? Like a light bulb got turned on, and I realized I may be really good at this craft, and I may be able to execute it really well. And I've honed this gift and this craft that I have. However, something is missing. Something's missing from my life. And I felt like this pull, this calling to go deep into nutrition to help other people. And as soon as I shared it with my husband, of course, he's my biggest cheerleader. And he was like, whatever you want to do, I'm here for you. Now, mind you, I'm now in my 40s, but I'm launching into this career. And I have never felt more excited, besides when I got married and had my baby, and those two things, to do something. It was like there was this purpose and this passion behind it. And I knew it was, people were asking me, my teachers were asking me, what is your why? What is your why? You know, and because that helps students get through the course and complete their goals. And I said, it's a calling. I can't not do this. So I'm doing it. No matter what, I'm doing it. And as I was soaking in all this information and going through the courses and all of that, then I found Dr. Cabral, and it was like, oh, that's the next step. I need to learn how to run the labs for clients so that I will know specifically what to target to help people. I just so much wanted to help people heal their bodies and feel like I was feeling in my body, just full of just rarely getting sick and always feeling like it wasn't that much of a struggle. I wanted other people to taste that as well. And so, of course, though, through the process of my mom passing away, that was when I realized that I was under tremendous amounts of stress. And when I'm working with clients, I feel like my niche really is for driven people, ambitious people, people who are high performers as far as in their job, in their industry, wherever they are, but they're perfectionists, more type A people. And I realized that I was under this stress of, I'm going to just continue to do this thing, even though I realized I wasn't really happy doing it. I wasn't really feeling totally fulfilled, but I thought I'm just doing it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. But this was creating high levels of stress and cortisol in my body. And that is when I first started to see like some changes in my body, just maybe holding on to a little more weight around my stomach. And I started working with Equilibrium, it was called then. I started running my own lab tests with the health coaches. And I realized, oh, I have high levels of cortisol, like at all hours of the day. So this is not good. And this is showing me, for me, it was not that I had too much on my plate necessarily, because I love working. I love being busy. I love being productive and creative and all of that. It was, I need to make an internal shift and really go after what fulfills me and what really makes me happy. So here I am living my life as a dedicated wife, running my husband's office for him, dedicated mother, giving everything I could for my child, but always putting myself on the back burner. And I do run into this with particularly female clients who they put themselves on the back burner because they feel like it's the noble thing to do. Well, I'm just going to put my life, my desires, my passions on pause because this is what is expected of me. And so what I did, and now what I like to help other women do, is find, what do you really want to do? This doesn't mean that you just drop everything, all your responsibilities, and you're going to make a complete shift. And no, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean a midlife crisis. It means let's really go for it. Let's at least open that door. where you are sharing what you really want out of life. And from that place, because once you write it out or say it out, now, and this kind of goes in line with brain rewiring, now your brain is finding ways to make it happen for you. Now doors are going to be opened for you. Now it's going to be attracted to you. So, but if you're just holding it in and you are not acknowledging what you really want, then you will possibly never really see those opportunities for you. So this all comes in line with how does one really de-stress? It's finding what you really want to do and allowing yourself to realize that and to see it. And now, as I've gone through this journey of becoming a nutritionist, health coach, brain rewiring certified coach, it's now I feel like, wow, for me, the best part, the most fulfilling part is watching people transform, like watching them heal their brains and heal their bodies at the same time. So it's such a beautiful process. It's the process I've been through, and it's what I love to help other people do as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you said kind of specifically with women, I think simply just letting women know that it's okay to have other desires, like for you to sit there and ask a client the question of like, what would truly make you happy? What would you want to do with your life if, all of the other things didn't need attention? Like what inside of you, just simply asking that question and giving them permission to explore it, feel it, whatever, because I think we can get so stuck in like the doing, the taking care of, the whether it's kids and a husband and a house, and you're just kind of like always doing something for what feels like everybody else, to actually like be able to reflect and go, because there's probably some women that like wouldn't even be able to answer that right off the bat, right? So it's not even like you need to have them say it out loud. It's more like even giving them the permission to think about it and to put all the other things aside and like truly drop into what they're feeling, and be able to then, make some shifts to make it happen.
It's true, because what I hear back a lot of times is, well, I just have to do what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I have to do this. And then I will ask, do you really have to? And also, whenever you use the word I have to, your brain's going to rebel against that. It doesn't like to be told what to do. It likes to do things from a place that feels organic to you, that comes from a place of desire. And so if you are saying, I have to, you're saying no to yourself in some area of your life. And it's not selfish to look at your needs and to see what you really want to do. In fact, I always kind of put it out there that it's selfish to not acknowledge your needs, because now when you are saying what I need doesn't matter, what I want doesn't matter, but you are still in your actions, in your daily actions, you are going to be expressing that towards other people in your life. Mm-hmm. In other words, well, I don't get to rest because I have to do this, this, and this now. And so what's going to happen, eventually it's going to come out in like a little bit of complaining or a little bit of like a mood. You're going to have a little bit of an attitude, maybe. That's coming out against the people in your life. So if you are just taking that, and for me, it's so important in the morning, first thing, and then also before you go to bed, spend that time, quiet time, especially for women, but also for men. Yes. It's spend that quiet time where nobody is pulling from you, where nobody is saying, mommy, I need this, or honey, I need this. It's no, what do I need right now? What are my desires? What do I really want out of life? And just like have that journal there, just let it flow out. Now you've recognized your needs, your desires. And then from that, it's like, oh, I see it. Okay. And it doesn't even necessarily mean it's all being fulfilled right now. It's just you giving yourself permission to say, I'm a human. I have these needs. This is what I want. And now you've given to yourself a little bit. You know what you've done? You've just filled up your cup a little bit. And then before you go to bed, reflect on the day. Is there anything nagging you? There's always a reason why people can't fall asleep. The brain is just going. So now I also teach, there's these brain exercises that you can do before you go to bed that helps you release release the day. And also it's like, if there's a problem that's nagging you, maybe something that didn't get resolved, it's how am I going to look at this in a way where I'm going to kind of take care of it right now. It's like a meditation that I do. I'm going to take care of it right now. And, visualizing what you need to visualize. It's a whole like step-by-step process I do. And now I'm kind of resolving it with my mind. And so the brain can rest. Now the brain can do what it needs to do, which is clean up things while you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. So giving to yourself in the morning, first thing, yes, it's worth it to lose a little bit of sleep and get up early. Your body will adjust. It's a matter of taking care of yourself. And I feel like the mind especially needs a little more TLC than people are giving it.
Absolutely. Yes, because I think modern day society, we were really never meant to mentally, it's my belief, cope with as much as we are coping with today, right? Like we're on information overload, we're on career overload, we're on like kid overload, business. There's just so much information available at our fingertips that allows us to mentally be on overload at any given point in time. Not to mention all the things that like we may worry about because of modern day society. There's just so much, and especially for women, I do think that it's kind of in the societal way, we've never had more to quote unquote worry about. And so taking care of our mind is so important. And you said, the one thing that you said about like, I have to, that whole phrase, if there's things, I always say, if there's things that you truly have to do, right? Like there's also a different way. I always say to my kids, I never tell my kids like, I have to go to work. Mama has to go do this. Like I get to go to work. I get to help people. Like this is actually something that I get to do. It's a whole different shift in like, I have to, right? Like, sure, we need financial resources from my job? Yes, but I don't have to do what I'm doing if I don't want to. I love what I do and I get to do this. And it's so important for them to see that work doesn't have to be like this chore. It can be something that they get to get up and do every day as kind of like, something of reward almost for them.
Yes, it's so true. And one of the ways where you can get through everyone has things they have to do, right? That they don't really like to do. But if you do shift it into the I get to, always look at the end point. Always look at the reward. I get to go to work. Like for you, I get to go to work to provide for my family. And also it's fulfilling for you. Like for me, this is very fulfilling. When mommy is fulfilled, then guess what? She's a happier mommy. She is a happier wife because she is living her calling. So there's not a more beautiful gift that you can give to your family than being fulfilled and recognizing your desires and going for it. Exactly. I truly believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So that kind of segues us into, I would love for you to share a little bit about what now I think it probably like there's like an umbrella of the whole like brain rewiring, right? Like there's neurofeedback, there's lots of kind of, ways that this can be done. How were you trained? How do you use it most with your clients? Give us a little bit of kind of your most passionate look into brain rewiring.
Okay, so I will start with what it did for me. And that was sort of my launching pad. And I will go back to, I heard Dr. Cabral talking about it on a podcast, how he rewired his brain. The minute I heard that was a few years ago, I said, I'm going to do that. It just clicked. I said, I am going to learn how to do that and heal my brain. And so when the opportunity came, I took it. And for me, it was after my mom had passed. And I still had some trauma around that experience. And also when someone does go through a traumatic experience, that can definitely create a negative brain pathway. And then the mind is playing it over and over again. And when it plays it over and over again, you're feeling those emotions over and over again. And then the thoughts are coming. And that is what is making the pathway get stronger and stronger and stronger. And so for me, the healing journey was healing from that experience and also healing from some past experiences that I didn't realize were holding me back in life and causing me to be a certain way that I guess what I like to tell people is when you go through the experience of rewiring your brain, you're actually uncovering layers of stuff that has been built up over the years that really isn't your true self, which is why you're out of sorts, which is why you may be angry or you may be resentful or bitter or frustrated or overwhelmed or depressed at anything. It's because there's layers, there's parts of you that you have said no to, and you have, in a way, become this type of way so that you can survive. It's all so that you can survive. Your brain just wants to protect you. And so for me, it was a matter of healing the past, that trauma, and then other past traumas, and realizing just how free I had become. Not only that, but the biggest transformation happened around COVID that time. And I had to immediately start homeschooling my son while running my practice. And I said, oh my goodness, had I not rewired my brain, I don't know that I would be able to do all of this. I would be so stressed out. There were things that all I had to do was think about them and I would become stressed out. And then when I became stressed out, I would get snappy. I would just need time alone all the time, when I have the most beautiful, loving relationship with my husband and my son, and I am blessed. And so I was like, what is this? I don't like this part of me. Then I realized it was stressed, it was overwhelmed, but it had been created from all of the past stuff that I had carried with me through life. Also, the patterns that you develop as a child in your home environment. So it can not only just be your parents, but your relatives, teachers, whoever had an impact on your life. And so once I saw all of that, I said, this is why I act this way, is because I need to heal that. So in the beginning, when I was working with clients and I just jumped right in, I have this tool, I want to help you. And it was beautiful. And I see it as kind of like an evolution of, I'm just going to jump in, help these people that need help. And they started getting results right away. And it was great. But I still didn't have a particular niche at that point. It was just whoever wanted to come in. I always did, though, want to help people lose weight. That's always been a big desire of mine, not because society says anyone has to look a certain way. It's because I saw these people struggling and feeling blocked and feeling stuck, and also feeling like they're going through life missing out on something. And it was like, what am I missing? I'm a failure. What am I not doing right? And I would say, let's look at the brain. Let's look at this pattern that's keeping you going towards the fridge to grab that second piece of cake when you know you don't want it. So the self-sabotaging, let's look at that. Let's look at this pattern that you are operating on that's manifesting these behaviors. Let's change them. Let's heal that. So now you feel empowered to change your life, because it all does go back to, are you a victim or are you in charge of your life? So you don't have to be a victim. Yes, horrible things happen to everyone. That is just how life goes. However, when these things happen, you can have the tools to go through them and look at them. You don't have to be afraid to look at your emotions. You don't have to be afraid to look at the pain. Look at it, feel it, and now let's go through it and heal from it. And I've seen the most beautiful results from someone who's gone through the darkest of times and healed that, and then really uncovered who they were, because that's really what happens. It's this uncovering of who you really are, and it's really a beautiful process. And then to finally answer your question, how I got into now, what I do is helping women release weight, also men, but there is this strong calling for women. Is I see the power of healing the brain to heal the body. Mm-hmm. So you can really tell a lot by how a person just is around food and what they need to heal. And I love seeing them set free to where they don't feel like the food has power over them, or a party or a restaurant, where they're going, they don't have to be anxious anymore. They don't have to worry. They are free in their body. So my program is called Lean and Free. And it's called that because it's not necessarily even about being a skinny, thin person. It's not about that at all. It's about you being exactly what you want to be. So no matter what you want to be, you can do it. You have the power to do it. And I'm going to give you the tools and help guide you. So if you want to be a certain weight that's healthy for you, you can do it. There's no reason to stay stuck anymore. And then free. Now you're free in your body. Now you have confidence. Now you're free also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in your soul. And you're going through life from a different place, the real you that you want to be.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said. It has so much power to the mental aspect of it has so much power to transform the physical, in the sense that oftentimes, that's the main roadblock, right? Like the kale, right? You're not eating enough kale, or you're not doing this after it's been 3 to 4 months of someone, listening to your nutrition recommendations and all of that. For so many people, their behaviors are just deep rooted in either patterns, habits, which are ultimately formed from our life experiences, which I think is kind of what you alluded to with like things like past trauma and past trauma. The word trauma, I feel like, gets a lot of buzz, and a lot of people think that it has to be major traumatic, life altering circumstances, which it doesn't always have to be. I mean, I talk to people all the time who are like, I had a really happy childhood. I was a happy kid. I had great parents. I grew up in a really wonderful home, but my mom was a little bit anxious and I picked up on that. And, like, it doesn't have to be these major circumstances, right? That like throw your life for a loop for us to just constantly have these. And I love how you said, basically, like once you keep going, you're just like enforcing that pattern, right? Like, okay, so like my anxiety is tied into X, Y, and Z. And by continuing to go through that pattern, you're reinforcing it. And your brain is then thinking like, we have to keep doing this to help her survive because this is what we've always done. And unless you actually have the tools to rewire it, it's just kind of a never ending cycle, in the sense that it keeps on enforcing.
It's true. And also, I remember my mom struggled with anxiety. And that was one of the things when she passed. I said, I really want to heal any patterns that I have around anxiety, because I see it as a pattern, and I see it as this is something that I absorbed growing up. So you're right. It's not necessarily a major event. It's how I explain it to my clients is it's anything that doesn't serve you, that doesn't serve your goals. So it's getting in the way of you achieving your goals. That is how you can identify a negative pattern. So say you want to release weight and you keep getting stuck, and you keep, you'll lose a little bit and then you'll gain it again. Well, let's look at the why. What are you repeating over and over again? And why is it there? What are you feeling? We really get into it. What emotion is there? And what thoughts are there? Because it's all connected. So your thoughts are creating an emotion, and now it's creating this action, and that's feeding the pattern. And then the pattern is bringing up the emotion again, and the thoughts again, and the action again. And so now we need to disrupt that pattern. That's what we do. And the interesting thing is, in the beginning, when you first start this journey, sometimes you feel like two different people. It's wild because the new pattern is starting to form and the old pattern is still kind of there. So sometimes the brain will freak out on you a little bit and kind of yell at you. And I always say, it's okay, let it yell at you. It likes to run on these patterns. It likes to be efficient. It doesn't like change necessarily. You can program a computer to run a certain way. Same thing with your brain. So now you've just disrupted that pattern. And sometimes the brain will also say, this is not really you. This isn't really who you are. Whenever you kind of go outside of the norm, from your family, from your upbringing, from, whatever career, say you've made a 180. For me, it was, and I still sing, by the way, but it was from just doing that exclusively to now doing this. It will kind of freak out on you and say, this is not really who you are. And you just say, yes, it really is, because this is really what I want to do. And so I'm doing it. And so that's also a beautiful thing to watch. So I always tell them, listen, if you're doing it, you're doing it right. And if your brain freaks out, just tell it everything's going to be okay, that you are changing it so that you are becoming a healthier person. So.
Yes. Yeah. And just like any change is, or learning anything new it can be messy. There can be,
yes.
Lots of,
yeah.
I recently listened to someone who was talking about like essentially changing like behavior patterns. It was more of like a relationship type of podcast. And he was like, when you start some of this stuff, when you start speaking differently and you start, acting a little bit differently, you're going to feel like a baby giraffe, like just like flailing about, because it's going to feel unnatural, because you're actually changing what your body habitually has done with great ease, because it's a habit. Your body's done it on autopilot. And now that you're doing something new, it's going to feel like very awkward and like you're just going to kind of feel like a fish out of water. So yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that you said that I would love for you to clarify a little bit is, so you said you disrupt the patterns. Now, how do you find that that's most effective? Do you ask clients to like talk about it? Do they journal about it? Do they what are the ways that you guide them through disrupting the pattern?
So the first step is identifying the pattern. And sometimes they don't even know they have the pattern. Like one of the patterns that I have a list of examples. I'm helping them out as much as I can. Here's a list of examples. One of the examples is, I already know this. That's a pattern, and that will keep you stuck from being open to learning new things. Because I've had people say, well, I already know this. And then I'll show them the list. That is actually a pattern. So the first step is to see it. If you don't see it, you can't change it. You really need to know that it's there. But once you see it, sometimes they'll panic, like, oh my gosh, I have this. Oh, what's wrong with me? And then I'll say, now we're not going to panic. You're supposed to see it, because now you're going to work to change it. So the first step is to see it. And then what we do is every week I give them journal prompts. Journaling is so important. And I always tell them this too, because I get a lot of perfectionists. We're not being perfectionists with the journaling. We are writing everything out. And it doesn't always have to be all this good stuff, all this positive stuff. No, I want all the messy stuff. Let's get it out, because a lot of people want to bury all the messy stuff. They want to bury their flaws or their mistakes or what they see as failures. But you really need to look at that, see it, see why it's happening so that we can begin to change it. So the first step is seeing it. That alone right there will start to disrupt the pattern, because now the client is saying, oh, I see that I do this. Oh, and so it's not automatic. Yeah, it's still automatic, right? But they're not doing it unconsciously automatically. Now they see it. And so now they're like, I want to change it. So just having that I want to will start to change it, actually. Before we even get into, I have a specific meditation that I take them through, and it's pre-recorded, and they listen to it every day, and they follow the steps in it. And through these steps, they are rewiring their brain. There's many ways to rewire your brain. This is how I've been trained. It's very effective. So we're journaling, we're seeing it, and now we're going to see the why behind it. This we'll have to dig a little bit more. We have live calls every week, so we'll kind of go in there and see what's behind it. Why do you have this feeling? What were you just thinking? Becoming aware of your thoughts. Okay, now we're going to challenge those thoughts, because just because you had a thought does not make it true. So we're going to challenge the thoughts. Now we're really getting into disrupting the pattern, because now you're telling your brain, but is that really true? For instance, if someone doesn't respond to your text and you're thinking, oh, I'm annoying them or they're mad at me. Now you're going to say, but is that really true? Do you know that for a fact? You know the sky is blue, but do you really know that that person is mad at you? Or no, if you can't prove it. So now we're going to get in there and say, I challenge this. I challenge this thought, or the thought that I'm never going to have enough in life, or I'm never going to achieve my goals. Is that really true? Now we're going to challenge it. And now as you go through that process, now we're going to create affirmations. We create affirmations. Now you're going to speak that over you and get your brain on board. Not saying an affirmation that your brain can't believe. In other words, if you're making, say you make $40,000, $50,000 a year and you want to have, you want to become a millionaire, you're not going to create an affirmation. Maybe someone could do this, but more realistically, it would be, I am working towards figuring out how to become a six-figure earner. And so now you're like stretching. So your brain has something to latch onto, to agree with. And then once now your brain believes that, you start seeing the increase coming. Now you go the next step and the next step. And through this process, you have totally, now you've rewired that pathway or that pattern. So.
Yes, that's great. That's exactly what I was looking for an explanation. That was so helpful. This has been so helpful. If somebody is listening and they kind of want to learn more, are you on social media? Do you have a website? If anybody's, interested in working with you or just learning more about what you do, any of the places that you show up?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I am on Instagram, Joni.Logatto, Joni.Logatto, and also on Facebook, same name. And my website is JoniLogatto.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. I think it was super informative and enlightening probably to so many of our listeners as it was me. So I appreciate you being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Julia.
Thanks, Joni. We'll talk soon.
Okay.